All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our February 11th, 2025 meeting. This is a hybrid meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order and start off with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which includes Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, Virginia Island First Nations. The Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of the lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. That I'll ask you to join me for a moment of silent reflection for council and staff to quietly reflect on our duty to the community that we represent. Thank you. Next, if everybody could make sure your cell phones are off or on vibrate mode, please. And I'll remind council of declaration of pecuniary interest. If it arises, you can declare it then. And then the next item on here is minutes from our council meeting of, oh, there is no minutes. So, okay, so we're just going to move right into delegations. And our first delegation here is Matthew Phillip, Senior Project Lead with Unity Design. So welcome, Matthew.
Good morning, everybody, Council, Mayor Martin, and town staff. Thank you for having me. It's good to see everybody. Just want to share. I'm sending a request to share my screen. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Can everybody see this okay?
Yep.
Should be a presentation. Okay, perfect. Okay, so yes, very excited to be here to provide the town and the community the project update for the community center renovation and addition project. Some topics I'd like to discuss today is kind of just reflecting on the scope for requirements that were provided to us. Then we'll jump into the project schedule, the past 2024, and looking at the proposed schedule, and then the current cost estimate update that was provided by Morlock Construction, and looking at the current design update for all to see, and then we'll end with some questions if there are any. So to reflect on scope requirements, just kind of a reminder to all of us of why we're doing this. So that's the number one piece was the entire roof restoration. I believe that is part of the minutes today. And then number two is focusing on a brand new elevator that has access to the basement, the ground floor, and the second floor. The interior renovation, new lobby and addition side, and then building power upgrades with a lens of accessibility on top of it as well. Looking into the project schedule and just a quick cost estimate update. This is the outcome of 2024. Back in September, we had multiple meetings, but this one really focused on developing the functional program. So your wants and needs, both from the town staff and the community, for this project, and we take that and develop a kind of a schematic design process. So the next process of design, and we had a staff meeting in early October, kind of just a quick sign off on that, so we could utilize that design to develop the construction management request for proposal that went out, and then later on in October, onboarded Morlock Construction formally with the town, and had them onboarded into the project team early November, with also onboarding our consultants, our structural, mechanical, electrical designers. to focus in on this design and into the next phase of design development. So we had a very important team collaboration in early November, which led to further development of the design, and then the cost estimate that came at the end of December of last year. So kind of a Class D cost estimate from Morlock Construction. Early January, after the new year, we sat down with staff again to look at the current design and had that signed off, all while issuing and onboarding the first tender through the construction management process of onboarding roofing trades for the roof restoration. Looking at the proposed schedule for 2025, so we finished schematic design development at the end of last year, and we're into the next phase of detailed design and specifications, or better known as construction documentation. We focused our efforts in the new year of demo permit submission, which just been submitted earlier this year, or earlier this month, my apology. And then the yellow piece is kind of the main goal of construction management is to design and focus our efforts on meeting your budget while still meeting your schedule. So construction managers can start construction. Of course, once we get the permits in place, they can start construction while we're still designing into construction documentation. So in March, we're developing the next Class C cost estimate and further developing the design while looking at tender number 2, which will be focused on the elevator, and then submitting for building permit at the same time. And then 2 more sequential tenders from April and May for the rest of the scope. And then at the end of that tender submissions and submitting to council and to staff, our construction documentation would propose to be complete in May. And that would lead to a full construction on site. Of course, talking with staff and talking with the community, making sure that the obstructions are limited to all events. It's very important that your events are still happening while construction is ongoing. So that's an important piece for our kind of rental and addition side. And then looking at the end of March of next year, substantially complete. It's known to us that we need to have this project complete by next March due to funding requirements. And that is our goal, and that is our focus. And then come spring 2026, we can be 100% complete and into the warranty phase. Looking at the current cost estimate, so if you recall some time ago, we did an order of magnitude cost to council earlier last year, and now this is just a bit more developments from utilizing Morlock Construction and their experience. And looking at the addition, we're just over $1 million for the addition. The renovation area is just $443,000. The roof restoration is just over 1.2 million. The elevator itself came at 300,000. And then this particular project being a renovation and addition, there's still unknowns to this to the building and you know, what's hiding behind walls and ceilings that we need to have a contingency. So Morlock has a very large contingency, and it's important to have that. And then bonding and insurances, it's a requirement to have that for the life of the project. So that is their estimate for that. So that totals just for construction costs about $3.8 million. So it's important too, like construction. That's why we went with construction management. We know you had a tight budget and tight timeline, and we can work with Morlock Construction. So the next steps of that is working with our project team to find those savings through the detailed design phase. I'm actually very pleased that it kind of came at 3.8 because it's, you know, construction budget itself is 3.5. So we're very close, and we can work with Morlock and the town staff and our consultants through the tender phase and through construction phase of the life of the project to meet that budget. And on top of that, we're starting the Class C cost estimate. Actually, we've already started and looking into it to have it completed in March. Now, looking at the actual design and the approach we took, this is looking at the south side of the ground floor plan. So north is kind of up on the slide and south is down. So this is your existing canopy from the parking lot. And there's these three entry points, one into the lobby and one into the second floor community space, and then one into the Lions. We were kind of looking at utilizing as much of your funding as possible, but also providing your scope of work. So looking at these very specific areas, the canteen, the washrooms, the existing elevator, the exterior canopy and these door entry points, and then the existing lobby as well towards the rink. So the next step of developing that is kind of pushing and pulling the design, the existing design, and blocking out these areas to see kind of the extent of where we need to take it, large or small. We also take the same layout and see just schematically how it looks on the site and what kind of cause and effects it has with that. And very minimal cause and effect to the site. My anticipation is about 7 parking spaces would be relocated and then regrading in and around the new building. So this transitions us into the design development side of the design. So this is the current design east of the parking lot, where you would walk into this into a covered canopy area, walking into a very large sliding door, and you wrap around into the entry point of the sliding door. So this provides a large accessible vestibule with natural light kind of east-west into the space. You walk into a larger new lobby space with a window looking to the north. And you have two or three walking points. The first one, you can go into the existing lobby and into the rink. You can go to the west in 2 directions. You can go up into the second floor community space, or you can take the elevator up into that space or into the basement, and then the Lions Club as well. So this opens up all this opportunity of larger amount of space. On top of that too, we relocated the canteen servery so that in the winter you can serve people inside the building on an accessible sliding window and counter. And then during your summer programs, you can serve people for the outside programs and with an accessible counter. And with that, just noting that the grades from this point to the south point, they're quite steep. So we're introducing a guard because it's important that exterior barrier-free washroom is provided for everyone to use on top of your existing exterior washrooms as well. So walking into the existing lobby space, there's a sliding door that separates the existing to new. It's kind of an important door, both from a climate standpoint and just security. So having that door provides very limited obstruction to your current services of the building and provides a light amount of services to the addition. And walking further into it, we have the brand new staff office that allows, and there's a kind of outside corner window so the staff can see who's coming in and out of the rink, as well as the lobby, and provides two entry points, and then a washroom beside them. It could be staff, could be public, whichever you choose, and then a universal public washroom, and then a brand new male female washroom stalls and new fixtures, new counters, new sinks. This provides a larger lobby space, roughly speaking 6 to 7 feet wide from one end to another. We removed the current office and utilizing, there was two doors here, one door into the office and one door into the change room. So we're using both doors now with a brand new door to allow more functional program to come in and out of that for change rooms. And the big piece too from the town and the community, it was the accessible viewing areas. We had various iterations, but through initiative on dasher boards and companies that make these, they have accessible viewing dasher boards that still meet rink requirements for strength, but provide glass at the top and bottom of the rail. So this is very interesting. It provides limited obstruction and in a brand new viewing area for your lobby space. And they being the company that is helping us provide this for the project has precedent images of an exterior rink for that, just to show what it would look like in your space. They're aluminum rails and glass top and bottom. Going into just the basement area, we didn't want to do too much with this space, but looking at it, we do have to think about the elevator coming into this space, and then looking at the washrooms and your service areas. So it's a very light renovation. We're kind of merging both washrooms into one accessible washroom, so it's just a larger washroom with accessible fixtures. And then the new elevator would open into the space, and we would close off your service areas for staff only. And then again, on the second floor, very limited obstruction or construction as well. We just focus on the existing elevator location and have the new elevator come here with kind of just new finishes to close up that area. This is a conceptual building elevation if you're standing at the parking lot looking at the new building. And if you saw it for the first rendering, this is just a schematic version of it that we're looking at very localized material. So it's a metal material, both the dark and the wood finish would just make the palette simple for everybody. And we all know the companies that are local to it, so we want to utilize those companies. And then they want to provide as much natural light as possible. This would be a staff-only entry point for the canteen or services or loading. And then this would be your exterior sliding window, accessible counter for the canteen survey for your summer programs. And then this door would be your exterior only for the barrier-free washroom. And this is roughly speaking how the grades would work. But we do know we would have to provide a guard in this location. This is if you're standing in the ball field looking at the community center. So it's very small in scale for the addition and the same palette of metal wood textured panels with just a basic metal panel everywhere else. This window would provide that natural light as well as a viewing into the baseball from inside. And looking at it from the north, if you're standing in the park area, same kind of palettes, just a kind of a mirrored version, provide more natural light into the new lobby space as well. And this is the final rendered conceptual image of what the addition would look like. And that is everything. Thank you again, everybody. Is there any questions?
I'm sure there will be. Thank you, Matthew.
Yes.
Yeah, I always say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it's nice to see something. It's nice to get a visual on it anyways. And the biggest part of the next steps will be working with all the user groups and people that are going to be inconvenienced at some point, but I think they'll have to be included in some of the discussions later as we move on. But right now it looks like it's going to take a good year to complete everything that's on there, maybe a little bit more than that. So I'm going to open it up to council and see what questions they have for you. So, yeah.
Mr. Mayor, Thank you for the presentation today, Matthew. Just I don't have a question or comment around the boards for the lobby, the glass boards or clear boards. Is that something I've seen it used in a couple other communities? So when we put that in there, we'll have basically viewing from floor to ceiling, right? We'll have the glass boards on the bottom with the glass on top.
That is correct. That is correct. There's also a full brand new board on top as well.
Okay, and just in terms of, I don't know if we get to that point, but in terms of the flooring for the lobby, is that gonna be, is it gonna be a skate-friendly flooring, or is it gonna be kind of like a cement? So I know some of
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
no, I just said to some of the arenas I've been in kind of have that rubberized surface in the lobby, so people can walk out in the lobbies with their skates on. I don't know if we've reached that point in the planning, but just wondering if any idea what the flooring would be like there.
Through you, Mayor Martin, yes, we would focus in on a non-slip resistant material. I wanted to try to limit the amount of restoration to the existing flooring. You kind of have this nice non-slip resistant material in that area and try to take it into the new lobby space. As far as this very specific material, we haven't chosen it yet, but that's the goal, is to have it kind of arena friendly flooring for sure.
Thank you very much, Matthew.
Okay, any other questions? Councillor Flagler, go ahead.
Yes, good morning. Just one question, and maybe I've obviously missed it somewhere here. Is there not a gym area? Or are we just expanding what we already have in there? Like, I'm not clear on that.
It's the next phase.
Yeah, that's the second phase. That would be after.
I actually asked the question to the gentleman on the computer or on the TV. Could you please answer that for me?
Of course, through you, Mayor Martin, that they are correct. That is kind of a second phase of this. This would be phase one of the project, and phase two would be the fitness gym.
And whereabouts is that on these plans here?
Through you, Mayor Martin, it's currently not shown in this plan, but it would be the northeast east side of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Matthew? Go ahead, Councillor Doherty.
Mr. Mayor, the doors going into the main entry, are they double doors, wide doors? How? There's not a measurement on any of your drawings. That makes it rather difficult to kind of put things in perspective, but are both doors going into the upstairs, into the thing, larger doors? Do they open simultaneously? Are they auto?
Through you, Mayor Martin, great question. They are sliding automatic doors.
Okay.
So they're very similar to any kind of grocery store. They're the largest sliding door that exists right now, or that's North Americanly made. And so the main festival has those two sliding doors, as well as the door into the new lobby from the existing lobby.
Thank you. Because the hockey bags are so big now, you can't get them through the small doors, so it's kind of relevant.
That is exactly why the vestibule is that big. So and those sliding doors are that big as well. So we focused in on that exact point, that it was hockey bags. Yeah.
Follow up to you, Mr. Mayor. One of the drawings that you had, which is the drawing that faced the south, it didn't show a door coming in, although on the first floor plans, it shows stairs going up into the two washrooms. Is that door there, just not on the drawings, or?
So you, Mayor Martin, is that the basement?
No, first floor.
First floor? If I may, I would like to go back.
Okay.
Is this the
Yeah.
Is it? My apologies, I'm not really sure which door.
Lisa, Jerry?
Well, I'm trying to find the picture because not all of them agree with this. Well, looking at the building from the south, you had a schematic drawing there of it, which shows Havelock-Belmont-Methuen, the big sign on the front of the arena. That's the one.
The ballpark view.
Well,
Okay, let me go to that.
sorry,
That's okay.
right there. Now, that to me does not indicate stairs, a doorway or anything, but am I on the wrong side? Because it says the south side and my directions aren't that good, but I think it's the south.
Yeah.
You're correct, and you're probably like this. The existing building, we just kind of drew it as a schematic. We're not touching any of those stairs or the doorways into it, so it looks like it's an empty space. And then this is just a window, so with a flat wall down to existing grade, and then people would walk up through the parking lot to get to the main vestibule. Those areas don't really require stairs because the grades will be quite slight slope.
So I think what Councillor Doherty's talking about there is that's an accessible washroom that you're showing in the new part there on that addition that you would access by the canteen. But on the gray area that you were showing a little farther back, they're showing some washrooms, but I'm not sure if they're in the bathroom that's there is in the off the Lions Den, or if it's in the there's the stairs that go down to the basement where there's a washroom down there. I don't know. It's just a little bit confusing on that end, but it sounds like the stairs are going to be going to the same as they are right now, down to the basement where there's a washroom. The only outside access washroom will be that accessible washroom.
And
No.
sorry, through you, Mary Martin, it would be.
Yeah. So that washroom there.
This would be the barrier-free washroom access from the exterior. So I'm anticipating this area would be flat. We have to make this kind of flat, and then there would be a sidewalk coming into the washroom here.
Well, just hold on.
Just about time, Matthew.
Through you, Chair. I'm not talking about the addition. I'm talking about the main structure where the wall says it's straight and no door or no stairs. It's very straightforward. Are the stairs remaining? Are the doors remaining? Because if you have them there and they're on the main floor, we can close off the rest of the arena and can be accessible when the ballpark's open. So the picture doesn't show it, that's all, Dan, and I just want to make sure it's on there. Thank you.
They are remaining.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Martin, that is correct. These are all remaining right here.
Yeah, so it's existing.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Webb, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. On the one picture, I believe it's the top view. We see that the addition's gonna jut out into the parking lot, and it kind of looks like we're probably gonna lose 4 or 5 parking spots. Being 7 flashed at me. Has there been any discussion about reworking the configuration in our parking lot in terms of trying to just make it work better with more spaces?
We're through you, Mary Martin, apologies. We are discussing that with staff and how to rearrange the parking if it needs to be that large of a alteration. But I'm anticipating 7, but it's probably not that much. And you do have a large parking area that we could simply just relocate them elsewhere with no major change.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think, it's something that we probably should look at, because we do have a number of events, and especially if we're expanding this, hopefully our events will get bigger and attended by more people. But we've just run here recently in last weekend, the Fire and Ice, and quite often we have people parking in pretty much where they can along beside the ball field and that. So I mean, if we could kind of maybe work, I don't know how many 10, 20 extra parking spaces. I know we're not going to find enough for everybody, but I think the parking needs to be expanded. If we're going to expand the rink to bring in more people, we're gonna probably should expand the parking lot too, so.
So. Do you have an answer to that, Matthew, or just make a note of that anyways?
Through you, Mayor Martin, that, yeah, I'll definitely make a note of that. We can work with town staff to look at that in the future for sure.
Thank you.
The one quick fix is once that canteen goes in, the other canteen will probably go and that'll supply an extra 4 spaces probably right there, but
Did you have your hand up, Doug?
No, I'm okay.
hey, Jerry?
Through your chair, how far does the building stick out? Without measurements, pretty hard to imagine. Like, is it 20 feet? Is it 10 feet?
Through you, Mayor Martin, it's roughly 50 to 60 feet.
Sorry?
It's roughly 50 to 60 feet.
The new addition's 50 feet out from the existing building.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Roughly speaking, yes.
Pretty well to the first parking spots that are there right now, so.
But that's what I'm getting.
Through you, Major, I understand it's out the parking spot, but how many feet? That didn't look like 50 feet when I look at from the parking spot to the first handicap spot that's there now. It just didn't look like 50 and without that. Thank you.
Do you have something there?
No.
Okay. Well, thank you, Matthew. It's, I'm not seeing any more questions here. It's, it'll be great to get on to the next step. And like I say, the next area would be, hopefully we include everybody that's going to be using this so they can understand, because a lot of things are planned a year out. So, give them an idea of what they're going to be able to do and what they're not going to be able to do. But, there's always some sort of, struggles when you're doing something different, but, hopefully it's all worth it in the end. Bob, do you have a question?
So through you, Mayor Martin, we're asking for some council direction today. If council is prepared to approve this design, we can move on to the next steps in this process. If council's not prepared to approve the design today, we would have to bring this back perhaps to a March meeting and seek that approval.
So Matthew, the next step, would there be like the measurements and things that Councillor Doherty's talking about? Like, this is more of it's almost just a concept almost. It's I'm sure you have some measurements somewhere. The next step will, when you start to go to tender, is gonna have a lot of detail in it, if I'm not mistaken.
Through you, Mayor Martin, that is correct. It is an immense amount of detail up to building permit and tendering with the construction manager.
Okay, thank you. So to keep things moving for today, we would need to move ahead with this. So what would that motion look like, Bob?
To approve the design as presented.
Okay. Okay, so that's moved by Councillor Clement that we move the design as presented. Do we have a seconder?
Question. Yeah, I'm ready to second it, as long as the suggestions that have been made here by the rest of council are taken into account when moving ahead here. So whether it be access space or whatever Councillor Doherty was talking about, the parking, you know, because I said we brought up 3 or 4 issues. Councillor Flagler brought up kind of, you know, maybe if we had a kind of just a sketch idea on where phase this and how that would go, right? I'm willing to move forward with that, but I think we've had pretty much a question from everybody here.
Mhm.
So, and I don't want to rubber, like, I like what's here, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to, but I don't want to, you know, make that final decision until, because we are dealing with a lot of money here in a big project, so we want to make sure we got everything nailed down before we move ahead. I don't know.
Yeah. So if the motion is to move ahead with what we got now, then you are going to be coming back to us with the details, I would think.
You can move a motion to bring back the details as discussed today. If that's council's preference.
Okay, so I have a mover right now, and if there's no seconder, I'll, or if it was that one.
Well, further question, if we brought it back to our first meeting in March, would that, are we holding up the timeline that Matthew's laid out?
I'll let Matthew answer that question.
Because it will be early March. So
So your Mayor Martin, as long as I have kind of a full list of what the questions are, I wrote down some, but if I can get the copy of the meeting minutes, I don't see that being an issue.
Yeah, Councilor Doherty had a question.
If you, through you, Mr. Mayor, you keep mentioning if it goes to the next phase. Well, isn't that the tender stage, so we won't be able to make any changes after we issue the tender, are we? Like, I'm confused if we'll just approve it and then we'll get the rest of the details later. Is that not too late then? Would it not be already established? What?
If I may, through you, Mayor Martin, to simply put, no, you can change the project at any point in time throughout the project. It's just once tenders go out, the construction manager and the trades are contractually obligated to meet that kind of the cost that they provide and the time that they provided it. So if any changes happen after the tender, there might be additional costs and additional time. So but working with town staff and yourselves before the tender to understand what your full detailed wants and needs, we can put all those items into the tender phase and allow them to go full steam ahead into construction.
Yeah, so what I see right now, like, so there is a question around parking, which will probably be a separate item as far as if we're gonna add that to the project to increase parking, that wasn't included in the original tender, so or like for the grant that we got. So those types of things there we're concerned about. So parking, the outside entrances that are in there now, basically you're saying they're gonna stay the same as what they are right now. And what was the other question? There was another question around, the phase two. That's something that would be nice to see a concept with, like with a grade in there, or what it would look like, or where it's gonna go on the property. And if it's gonna affect any parking, but I know it's not a part of this, but from what I've seen today, like, I don't see why we can't move on with this and keep things moving, but those things need to be addressed before we get too far into it. As far as mainly the parking is the only thing that I see that might be something that we're going to be discussing as far as trying to get some more parking, because I've always said that anyways, whether you got a 400-seat arena with 40 parking spots, and if we're going to take some away, it's hard to make that happen. But the one thing we're up against here is timelines. This has to be done to get the grant, and the more we keep moving here, so we're not against the wall at the end of it. I'm just wondering if those things, that the questions that are asked here, is there a possibility of moving on with this and get those things addressed at a separate meeting? Like, to give you the okay to go ahead. We still wanted to have some dialogue around some of those things, those questions that we're having, and we don't want to lose them in the discussion.
To you, Mayor Martin, I completely understand and respect that. I no concerns if you were to approve this as it were, and if we're just focused on parking. And then, of course, I just want to point out, and I don't want to steal Mr. Angione's thunder on this, but March 18th is our presentation for phase 2 of the fitness gym to yourselves. So could utilize that particular council meeting to provide that an answer to the parking. It's just probably most likely just be schematic at this point, but at least give you a sense of where things can go, and on top of where the fitness gym is proposed being, while still allowing our team and the construction manager to keep pushing it and working with town staff as well on the permits and things moving forward.
Thank you. So the motion right now is to keep it moving. It sounds like there's another, he's coming back on the 18th to show phase 2. you know, that's a totally separate thing, but as long as all these things are addressed, it would be good if we could move this ahead and just keep it going. But it's up to council. So I do have a move.
Just a brief summary and follow-up to Matthew's comments. Yes, there is a delegation scheduled coming up March 18th. Phase 2 was discussed at a previous council meeting, and Unity Design was authorized to provide concept drawings, which is what's going to come at March 18th. With respect to parking, that's a separate item, is not part of our grant. So we will have to address that in a different way. But we will address it, and putting dimensions on the drawing, we can certainly do that. And showing the existing building and the existing stairs and entrances, that's an easy one. We can do that. Nothing's changing there, as you heard today. So at the end of it, if council is prepared to approve the concept today, that would be fine. If not, we can bring it back to another meeting.
All right, so there is a move like a motion on the floor. If anybody wants to second, we'll call up for another motion. So is there a second? Councilor Flagler.
Could you please repeat the motion?
Martin, the motion is moved by Councillor Clement, seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb, that the design for the expansion as presented today by Unity Design is approved.
Seconder on. He hadn't seconded it yet.
Oh, I thought you seconded that. You didn't.
Thinking about it.
Oh, he's thinking about it. Thinking by Deputy Mayor Webb.
So still looking for a seconder. Or
I will second that motion. I'm looking at the drawings, everybody seems to be freaked out about parking spots, but I don't see where this design is taking away any parking spots. So
that'll
again,
be,
I'm not understanding what council's direction is here.
so that,
I will pass the motion.
so we have a seconder for the motion. And yeah, as long as everything comes back with it, the questions and we can deal with them, I'm sure. So anyways, so I have a mover and a seconder. Is there any questions around the motion? All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Okay, so thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, council. And everybody, have a great day.
Okay, the next item on here, the next delegation is Richard Snega with Baker Tilly. Always bringing good news. Welcome, Richard.
Hit the on button there, Richard. There we go. Yeah, right there. There you go. You're live. You're on the air.
That was quite an introduction there. You set the bar pretty high for me there. Good morning, Mayor and members of council. Here to present the presentation for the 2023 financial statements here, and what I will do is go through the presentation, not through the detailed financial statements. So what you see on screen here is what I will try to maneuver us through. So first off, the financial statements for 2023 for all municipalities, because of changes to PSAB, did include a number of new requirements, mainly for the asset retirement obligations, and in your case, for the recording of your investments that you have. So I'll highlight those, but of course, gathering the information for the asset retirement obligations did involve quite a bit of work from both your staff and your consultants on figuring out where you may have issues in relation to asset retirement obligations, and then of course trying to value those liabilities in accordance with the sections within the Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. So, and as a result, that did create a delay in just the presentation of the information here today. The one thing that didn't change is our independent auditors report. So that is our report on the financial statements. It is your standard 2-page auditors report. And what we pulled out here is the important paragraph, the second paragraph, that in our opinion, the accompanying consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the township as at December 31st, 2023, and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian Public Sector Accounting Standards. So that is your standard, clean, unqualified auditor's report. And keep in mind, when I say consolidated, the numbers we look at do include the operations of the library board as well as the cemetery board. Next slide just gives you an idea of the type of things that we do as auditors to gather the evidence to produce our auditor's report. And it involves testing and sampling, as well as analytical review, looking at management estimates, which was more important this year in relation to the asset retirement obligations. And then as well too, we look at the inflows and the outflows of your monies, as well as journal entries, how things get adjusted within your records. And we do our testing and related control testing on that. Next, the audit is complete, pending council approval of the financial statements, receipt of the representation letter from management, as well as I believe we're still awaiting on one legal response. Overall, there were no changes to our initial audit plan. As I said earlier, no disagreements or difficulties with management and staff as well. And as mentioned earlier, the additional work and procedures for the asset retirement obligation and the financial instrument sections did take additional work and time, but we have that all completed to our satisfaction. Next, there were 2 small items on the unadjusted differences, so they haven't been adjusted yet in the financial statements, and they will be reflected and adjusted moving forward. There was just one item in relation to both capital addition and capital funding, with a net effect of about $31,000 that wasn't recorded in 2022, and that happened in 2023. So the net effect is 0 on your bottom line. And then as well too, the vacation accrual, the net effect there is just a little over $12,000, and that'll get rectified moving forward. So those were the only 2 items that were not adjusted. So then that's where the actual audit is standing at this point in time. And now we take a look at your financial results, taking and first under PSAB, when you look at financial assets, so these are assets you have that are either cash or will be turned into cash. You will see there your cash did increase year over year by about 800,000. And that's mainly due to increases in reserves offset by increases in accounts receivable, as well as prepaid expenses this year. Next, we have your investments. So these are predominantly your investments in your one fund. And you'll see there was a large increase there. And a lot of that relates to the change in the standards for the recording of investments and for financial instruments. Up until 2022, all your assets were recorded at cost. Now they're recorded at market value. So that gave you a one-time pickup of $1.8 million. So you will see there that the investments went up by 2.2 million. That's broken down $1.8 million in unrealized gains, as well as 400,000 in growth. So that's the change in the accounting policy caused the biggest change there on that line item for this year. So, and hopefully markets continue on their trend so that you either realize that gain or the unrealized gains stay there. Next, we have your accounts receivable. you were owed some additional monies for some connecting link and some ICIP grants, as well as your HST was higher and causing the increases there. Next, you have your taxes receivable. This year, although they went up, you're still at about 5.9% of the total levy, which is still well below the 10% guideline set by the province. So you're still well in the low risk range from that perspective. So it's but it's always good idea to at least try to keep those as low as possible, because of course you pay the county and the school boards quarterly regardless of when the taxpayer pays you. And then as well, your loans receivable were paid off in prior years, so that's was relation to an external project. So therefore, at the end of the year, you had about $24 million in financial assets. Then the next slide just gives you the 5-year analysis of that. And you can see there the investments then are once again higher than the cash balances. Next, we come to who you owe money to. And similarly to the loans receivable, the loan payable was paid off a couple of years ago. You have your standard accounts payable and accrued liabilities. There was an increase there, mainly due to amounts owing to the county and the school boards, as well as developer deposits increasing year over year, but it includes your standard payables and accruals. Next, we come to your deferred revenue obligatory reserve funds. So these are monies you've received for your Canada Community Building Fund and your parkland. And then you just haven't spent those in accordance with the requirements, which then you can carry over in the following year. So that's majority of that relates to your Canada Community Building Fund. And then next you have your other deferred revenue. You will see there that that did increase a fair bit, and about 226,000 of that relates to the OCIF funding that you can utilize in future years, as well as 130,000 for Trillium. And then next we come along to the asset retirement obligation liability, and you will see there that you've added about almost $1.2 million in liabilities in comparison to about the 300,000 you had there in the prior year for your landfill closure and post-closure liability. So under the standards, you are required now to disclose your liabilities for anything where you're contractually obligated or legally obligated to remediate things, and for any substances that has a legal requirement. So things such as your landfill liability, that has now been rolled into the asset retirement obligation. So it hasn't went away, it's just been grouped into the line above. And then as well too, things such as the legal requirement to remediate asbestos if you do anything with any type of materials containing asbestos, that also needs to be now recorded. And in your case as well, you have an obligation to remediate some wells. So of the $1.2 million there, about 350,000 of that relates to your 3 landfills. Next is about almost 800,000 in relation to asbestos that you have either in buildings or in your case, the largest component relates to asbestos within your sewer pipes, within the underground services there, and then as well there's a small amount for the wells. So the obligation is to record the estimated liability of what you think is going to cost to remediate. Whether you will have to remediate these or at what point, that is unknown. So I mean, where you know where asbestos is, as long as you don't disturb it, it could be a very long time until you have to deal with that. But under the PSAB rules now, that you do have to record that. Similarly to the landfill closure and post-closure liability, though, you do not have to fund this liability until you think you're going to do the work. So it'll only have a tax rate impact at that point in time. So. Unique liability under PSAP, but that's the way that it's presented. So next you will see there that just the 5-year history on your liabilities. And you can see there the pay down of the short-term loan for the housing project in the village. Next, we will take a look at your net financial assets, and you can see there that that trend is increasing, which is somewhat consistent with the increase in your cash and investments back a few slides back. So this is you're in the black, which is good, and of course you remain in the black even with adding about 900,000 to your liability. So that's good to see. And it's quite reflective of the reserves and reserve funds you have set aside. So it's $31 million there, and then your non-finance. Sorry. Next slide. Taking a look at your non-financial assets, you will see there that your non-financial assets represent predominantly your tangible capital assets. So that's the net book value of your assets less the gross cost less any amortization. You can see there it did increase a fair bit year over year with the additions that you had, as well as this year you had some prepaid expenses for your insurance. So about 200,000 of that is for 2024 insurance. And then when all is said and done, you have accumulated surplus of about almost $51 million. And that's without the $1.8 million gain on your investments. Next, we come along to your tangible capital assets, and this is about $2.5 million, this pie. So these are the assets that you purchased and paid for out of your current resources. When you go to the statements, the assets were also increased as well by the amounts added to your asset retirement obligations. But the assets here in this chart are the ones you funded during the year. You can see there the roads and bridges is largest component there, and as well you'd spent almost half of that on the third line, as well as Baker Road. You spent about 160,000. George Street, which is also consistent with the water and sewer additions, was all related to George Street, and then as well. Too, when you take a look at the equipment, the largest component there, about 511,000, was for the new mini pumper for the fire department. And then building does include work you did on the community center and things such as that. So in total, that did equate to about $2.5 million in additions. And you see over the years, you can see there the how additions will vary, whereas the amortization is fairly consistent over the years. Next, we come to what I consider to be the important piece of the slide deck is your accumulated surplus. So as I said earlier, you had about $51 million in accumulated surplus, and that not including the 1.8 million in unrealized gains. So that's pushing it up to almost 53 million, but you only had about $23 million in cash and investments. Well, the difference is of course you've invested in your tangible capital assets. So that number there represents your net book value of your assets less your asset retirement obligations. At the end of the year, the cemetery board did have a remaining surplus, although it did decrease during the year. It's down to about $82,000. And then it's next the reserve and reserve funds, monies that you have set aside that you can utilize for future projects, perhaps like the one that was on discussion before I got up here. So it's good to see that is moving forward as well too. The keeping in mind the funding timelines there as well. So it's good that is moving forward. But still, you will see there that your reserves did increase, your water and sewer specific user group, and that mainly the water side of that increased in those reserves, and as well to your administration side, you're able to increase that reserve. And then your other reserves include, in relation for fire, building department, recreation and planning. So overall, then your reserves went up about $1.7 million during the year. And next we come along to your reserve and reserve funds, and you can see the growth of those over the years, so that you have those funds set aside so you can do projects moving forward. You're still in the fortunate position of not having any debt to pay for those projects as of the end of December there, so that's always, to me, a good sign. Next, we come to the consolidated statement of operations. So then this is a summarized version of what you'll find in the financial statements. The main thing here is to highlight the differences between tax rate budgeting and PSAB related items. So as you can see there on the top section, within the budget, you are budgeting $2.6 million surplus, but of course you're not allowed to, on a tax rate basis, budget for a surplus. So it's those items below in the reconciliation that create the difference in bringing you back down to zero on the bottom line there, being tangible capital assets and amortization, and then transfer to and from reserves. Under PSAB, all your funds are presented as a group, whereas when you budget for tax rate purposes, you just look at the operating fund, and movements between them are segregated. So you can see there that you're about $4.6 million below budget on your capital additions. And not surprisingly, then the change in your transfers to and from reserves were about $4.4 million. So the variance of using reserves, since you didn't have to use as much because you didn't have as much capital. So that's the correlation there. And then you will see the revenue versus expenses over the years. As you're acquiring assets, normally the blue bar is higher than the expense bar or the revenue bar. And it's still always a good position to be in. Next, we come to your actual revenues, and you will see there that came in about $100,000 over budget. And some of that is due to the fact since your capital expenditures were lower, the amounts expected to be received for grants from the federal and provincial governments were lower as well. So that's why you see the variance there on those two lines. The one nice thing to see though is that was greatly offset by the amount of interest income you earned, which is about $900,000, which is grouped in that penalties and investment income line. So you did significantly better on your in interest income. So that's just a benefit of having the cash and investments available with the higher rates of return during the year. You were able to realize more there. And then as well, within your province of Ontario line, your majority of that is your own PF of about $1.3 million, as well as your Connecting Link and your ICIP grants for capital projects for both George Street and the community center. And then as well too, your property taxation for most places. This year supplementaries were higher than they had been in the past, so causing an increase there. And then as well, your user charges, about $1 million of that 1.8 million is related to water and sewer, as well as about 160,000 for landfill, and building permits as well were about 276,000 in that total, and including your recreation fees of about 74,000 there. All of those amounts causing positive bottom line compared to budget. And then you get the pie graph showing that. And then next we have where your money went to on a PSAB basis, and you will see there that these amounts are due include amortization, so they cause and with the implementation of the asset retirement obligations, they do cause items to be higher, both in the environmental services as well as additional amortization as well in transportation services and rec and culture, and as well too within the water and wastewater area, there were some additional costs causing the environmental services to go up. And then as well too, within the general government area, there were some items related for consulting and software and asset management causing the variance from the budget there. So it's still our budget coming in is slightly higher in the actuals, and we'll see that more as we move forward. See there the various pieces of the pie, whereas transportation services and does remain historically one of the larger areas for rural municipalities. And then when we take a look here, the type of expenses, you will notice that the amortization being higher than budget, and then as well too rents and financial and contracted services, materials being higher in relation to asset retirement obligations and on the landfill, those type of things. So and then within the contracted services, the largest component in there is your OPP contract, so coming in at about $10.4 million in actual expenses. It's the graph for that, and then where things ended up at the end of the year. So.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Richard. I'll open up the council here. Any questions for Richard for your stuff? No questions? You must have done everything right.
I'd probably say,
Or your phone will be ringing off the hook later.
I would say, I'd say that maybe your treasurer and your staff did everything right, but yes.
Okay. All right then. So if there's no questions for your motion. Okay, motion to receive the report, moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, Richard.
Richard, we'll get you some signatures.
Perfect, thank you.
It's, Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment. So I'll look for a motion to go into that public meeting. Moved by Councillor Clement, second. Deputy Mayor Webb, all in favor? Carried. Okay, this is a statutory public meeting held under Section 39 of the Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make verbal or written representation, either in support or in the opposition to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please keep your video off and microphone muted during the meeting until the chair invites you for comments regarding a planning matter. If a person or public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen
before the proposed zoning bylaw is passed, person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. So with that, I'll turn it over to Samantha. Welcome.
Good morning. This is for a zoning bylaw amendment application for 212 Fire Route 87A. The subject property is located on Jack Lake and accessed on Fire Route 87A, owned by Zoe Fixel and Jeff Grenville. The agent on the file is Riley Martins. Next slide, please. The purpose and effect of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of the council an application to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended in order to permit the redevelopment of a single detached recreational dwelling unit while also introducing certain site-specific regulations. The zoning bylaw amendment also includes a holding provision to ensure that the recommendations of the EIS are registered on title. Relief is being requested to permit the decreased minimum required setback from the high water mark and front yard setback for the new proposed unit and sewage system, as well as to permit an increased maximum lot coverage. The proposed dwelling will have a ground floor area of approximately 271 square meters, or around 3,000 square feet, with covered and screened porches and an attached garage for a total floor area of around 496 square meters for 5,000 square feet. The attached garage will include a sleeping area on the second floor, which will be serviced by both plumbing and electricity. The installation of the new septic system is required to accommodate the increased footprint of the new proposed seasonal recreation dwelling. Next slide, please. The current dwelling does have a setback of around 5.7 meters from the high water mark. The current existing deck is located even closer at around 3.8 meters from the high water mark. The new dwelling is proposed with a setback of around 6.7 meters from the high water mark, and the attached garage is proposed around 10.5 meters from the high water mark as well. This does constitute a minimal improvement from the setback to the shoreline. The new proposed septic system is to be located at the rear of the proposed dwelling, approximately 26 meters from the high water mark. Due to the proposed septic size location, as well as the irregular shape of the parcel, the dwelling was unable to be located further away from the shoreline. The previously mentioned, a scoped EIS was completed as part of this application, and the recommendations of the scoped EIS will be registered on title through a mitigation agreement. Next slide, please. The application represents a general improvement to the site through the increased setbacks to the shoreline. Following our review and assessment of this application within the context of the relevant land use planning policies, it is the township's planning opinion that the subject application conforms to the County of Peterborough's official plan, the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen's official plan, our zoning bylaw as amended, and is consistent with the provincial planning statement. Planning staff can confirm that the notice was provided in accordance with the Planning Act. Mail notice was provided to all homeowners within 120 meters of the subject site. And as you can see here, a property sign was posted on the property as well. Happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Right, then I'll open it up first here. I'm gonna ask 3 times if there's anybody in opposition, followed by 3 times anybody in favor. So I'll start that process off. Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? 3rd time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? 3rd time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing none, is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? 2nd time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? 3rd time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Okay, hearing none, is there any council got any questions for Samantha with regards to this? So we do have a recommendation here. I'll turn over to the recommendation if there's no questions. Moved by Councilor Clement, seconder. Councilor Doherty. All in favor, and that's carried. Next, Samantha.
This is the zoning bylaw amendment application for 414 Anderson Road. The subject property is located on Round Lake and is accessed off of Anderson Road, owned by Nature's Point on Round Lake. The agent on the file is Kevin Duquay. Next slide, please. The purpose and effect of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended in order to capture the existing use of the barn on the retained lands. Consent applications B116-17, B117-17, and B118-17. Is this working?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, it just sounded like a stop.
Yeah, it sounds different.
Yeah. Sorry, those consent applications were filed with the Peterborough County Land Division in February of 2022. And they were amended in 2023. The consent applications have all been endorsed by the Township Council back in 2023. The purpose of the consent applications were to sever the property to create 3 new lots, including 2 new vacant building lots, and to sever 1 lot that's already been developed with a single detached dwelling on Anderson Road. A condition of the consent was outlined in the County of Peterborough's decision to rezone the retained lands to essentially capture the existing use of the barn as storage only. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment will then rezone the portion of the retained lands, the portion that is zoned rural, to Special District 90, SD 90 zone, to capture the existing use of the barn, to outline the existing barn is to be used for dry storage only and not for the housing of livestock. Next slide, please. Following our review and assessment of this application within the context of the relevant land use planning policies, it is the township's planning opinion that the subject application conforms to the County of Peterborough's official plan, the township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen official plan, the township zoning bylaw as amended, and is consistent with the provincial planning statement. Planning staff can confirm that notice was provided in accordance with the Planning Act. Mail notice was provided to all homeowners within 120 meters of the subject site, and as you can see, a property sign was posted as well.
Okay, all right then. So I'm gonna start off. Is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Third time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? Seeing none, is there anybody that wishes to speak in favor of this application?
Your worship,
Yeah.
I'm assuming you are able to hear me.
Yeah, go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Martin, members of council. And I'd also like to thank your planner, Samantha Deck, for her very prompt processing and administration of the concerned zoning bylaw amendment application. I have reviewed the staff report, and on behalf of my clients, I can confirm we are in concurrence and agreement with the staff recommendation. If I might take one moment unrelated to this, I would like to congratulate Mayor Martin, Council, your municipality on proceeding with your improvements to your community center. I had an occasion in 2019 to undertake an accessibility audit of the building. I'm very happy to see the proposed improvements. So congratulations on that front. So back to the zoning application. If there's any questions, I'm happy to respond to same at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Okay, second time, anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? Third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? Hearing none, I'll open it up to council. What's your thoughts here? Any questions for Samantha or?
Straightforward
Mayor Webb?
motion to approve.
Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Webb that we approve the recommendation, second by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I'll look for a motion to go out of the public meeting, moved by Councillor Clement, second Councillor Doherty. All in favor, and that's carried. So we're back into the public meeting, or the regular council meeting. And we'll move on to the next item on here is planning and planning report. Samantha, go ahead.
I have nothing further to add for this one. It's pretty straightforward, just an environmental mitigations agreement. This was just something that was outlined from the previous zoning bylaw amendment after the recommendations of the scope GIS are to be registered on title from the agreement. So just a report and bylaw to be taken forward for the signing of the agreement.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Clement. Any questions? All in favor? And that's carried. And the next item here is, go ahead, Samantha.
Thank you, Mayor. The purpose and effect of this report is to provide background information regarding the proposed creation of 2 new residential building lots and to seek the requisite direction of council. The subject property compromises approximately 53.82 hectares or 133 acres with road frontage on Preston Road, as well as on Crow River, known municipally as 829 Preston Road. If approved, the lots to be created will comprise approximately 0.65 hectares or 1.6 acres with approximately 63 meters of road frontage on Preston Road. The severed parcels, as you can see here on this diagram, are both currently vacant and are intended to support a future single detached dwelling on each. Next slide, please. The preliminary severance review indicated that there was a requirement of the applicant to complete a natural heritage evaluation to demonstrate conformity with the growth plan. With the removal of the growth plan last year, the requirement for the natural heritage evaluation to be completed, which is typically triggered within 30 meters of a key hydrologic feature, that is removed. So any request for a natural heritage evaluation triggered by the policies under the growth plan would no longer be applied. However, it is the opinion of township staff that a scoped environmental impact study is still completed as a condition of consent to demonstrate conformity with the township official plan, notwithstanding the elimination of that growth plan. The requirement for the scoped EIS would ensure that a suitable building envelope does exist on the severed lots. Due to the unusual topography, a mapped watercourse traversing through the severed lands, an adjacent environmental protection zone on the retained lands, as well as unevaluated wetlands extending onto the severed lots, the scoped EIS would be beneficial to ensure that there is sufficient space on the severed lots for building, septic well. Slide, please. The subject property is currently designated as rural and shoreline in the official plan and zoned as rural and environmental protection. The lands to be severed are within the rural designation and rural zone. Based on the township's review of the subject application together with the supporting material, it is the township's planning opinion that if the completed environmental impact study can demonstrate sufficient building envelopes on the severed lands, the proposed consent would thus conform to the policies of the township official plan, as well as complying with the minimum lot area and frontage requirements of the township zoning bylaw. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for comment on this one? Quite a lengthy recommendation here, so I'm not going to read it all, but if somebody wants to move the recommendation, we can.
So through your member, I'll make the motion, but it has to have the environmental study.
Yeah, okay. All right, so that's moved by Council Clements. Seconders do that.
Just a question. So, just in the agency comments, might I take it then that the county will have the final say on this in determining the lot size or possible lot size?
Through you, Mary, yes. Ultimately, after this decision, I send what's called a municipal appraisal form to the county, and then it goes to their land division committee. So ultimately, it is their final decision. But it is that the planning staff's opinion that that study is required. We see lots of consent applications that were done in previous years with lots that don't necessarily have a full building envelope. So my recommendation that is included. And sent to the county for their final decision.
Thank you very much for that.
Okay, so you're seconding the motion, were you? Or no? Okay, good. Somebody want to second the motion, the recommendation moved by Councillor Doherty. Any questions around the motion? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, before we move on to the next part, I'm going to ask to take a 10-minute recess and come back. So motion to take a 10-minute recess. Moved by Councillor Flagler, second by Councillor Doherty, all in favor. Carried. Okay. All right, so we're back at it, and I'll look for a motion to resume the council meeting. Moved by Councillor Doherty, second by Deputy Mayor Webb, all in favor. And that's carried. Okay, so we're moving into staff reports for information. We have 3 of them here. So the first item on here is the jug fill and water supply station update. Any questions on that for Peter?
No, thank you for bringing, I know I asked for that in the last meeting, I guess. He's online. Peter, thank you very much for bringing that, appreciate that.
Okay, the next item here is the Peterborough Pete's practice there, Sherry.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know whether we have any questions or not, but okay. Go ahead.
Okay, we have been working with Doug Hart. Doug Hart has been in touch with our Peterborough Pete's, very similar to last year. They would be happy to have participate in a skate and practice in our arena. The date that works best for them this year is the Monday, February 24th, which is only 2 weeks away. We have done this before, thankfully, so we're able to pull the event together using a lot of what we built last year. The timeframes are 3:30 to 4:30 for the Pete's practice timeframe, which is important because it's after school. Last year it was a half hour earlier, didn't quite work for the kids in school. The 4:30 to 4:50 PM allows a select group of the players, the Hawks players, to come out and do a free skate with the players as they did last year. And then everyone comes upstairs for an autograph session and the Pete's have a meal before they head out. It is a fundraiser in that the Havelock Minor Hockey will be selling 50-50 tickets. There will be a game shirt that is autographed, and that too can be used at a later date for raffle or auction. It does elevate the community in terms of drawing attention to us that we're hosting. We are, I think, fortunate in having relations with the Peterborough Pete's. It is our local OHL team, and I think that if I look at some of the goodwill that stemmed from last year's event, we can build on that this year.
Yeah, it was a good event last year, so any questions or comments for Sherry? Go ahead, Councilor Doherty.
Mr. Mayor, the select minor hockey players, that's done by minor hockey.
Through your Mayor Martin, yes, they manage all of that.
Okay. All right. Councilor Flacker, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin. Sherry, is this not open to the public, to any child that wants to come and watch the Pete's? Like, I'm just kind of curious on why it's only open to Havelock Minor Hockey.
Oh, through you, Mayor Martin. It isn't. It is an entirely open event, open to not only our community, but we actually invite surrounding communities to come and visit us as well. We just partner with the Minor Hockey Association so that, quite frankly, a light is shone on their organization. It's a fundraising opportunity for them too.
One follow-up question through you, Mayor Martin. So if I have a child that would like to come out and skate with the Pete's, as long as I have a helmet and skates, can they do that?
Through you, Mayor Martin, no, we wouldn't approach it that way, largely because within the organization of the Havelock Minor Hockey, there is certain infrastructure and organization that I count on, and by them managing that, it reduces the risk to our organization and the burden from an administrative and coordination standpoint.
So in saying what you just said, then it's not open to the public.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I stand corrected in the sense that we advertise. We welcome everyone to come and join us to watch the Pete's practice on our ice surface. They will be encouraged to go upstairs and participate in the autograph signing. But in terms of going onto the ice, no, it will be controlled and managed by the Minor Hockey Association. In the very short window that we have for myself or someone on staff to try to pull those details together with someone who may not be an experienced skater, I think that would be too much for us to take on and do it well.
It's probably the Hawks insurance that's covering it too, like, so as far as the keeping with the organization.
Through you, Mayor Martin, that's a very good point. At this point, we don't take out a separate event insurance for this. We know that the Pete's, of course, carry their own. We cover the building, the participation for the event, and we would count on the Hawks to carry that. Again, that infrastructure and organization. That's
okay. All right.
Well, yeah, I'll just make a motion, but just with a comment. Thank you very much for all your work on this, Sherry. I think we have this up on the website in terms of advertising and whatnot, and contacted the local schools.
Through you, Mayor Martin, we received the information, so it would be Wednesday of last week before the festival, and it was enough that we could get our posters up before the festival. They are all in there, so everyone who attended the festival know, like, you saw them, and now we roll out the work. It started yesterday, and I'm up to my knees in trying to pull all the pieces together in a short period of time. But yes, the schools are notified. We share communication with them. The e-sign along the highway has to be updated, flyers printed, posted across town and surrounding communities as well. So it's a fair bit of work that goes into it. But it does elevate our community. It does strengthen relations between ourselves and the OHL team.
I'll just wait.
Okay, I'm sorry, I forgot.
Yeah. Okay, so the next item here is social media insight. Any questions on that? Good.
Yes. Through you, Mayor Martin. So your new followers, apparently went down from January. Could you please, elaborate on that?
Through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, let me explain this a little bit. Each month our numbers grow. They grow month over month. It's not easy, particularly through the holiday season, to capture people's attention, to gain followers, but we certainly achieved that. So in December, we ended with 541 followers. In January, that grew to 611. So we've increased it by 70. So that's an 11% increase. But in terms of the rate of trajectory, we found that we did better from November into December. Now, November, we had the pumpkin parade. So because of the advertising and whatnot, our followership actually increased within those 2 months. My hopes are that the Fire and Ice Festival will have a similar effect on our followership. But managing social media, growing followers, the base of followers is challenging. It is something that requires a great deal of attention. If someone comments or likes something, we thank them. We encourage them to share information. And certainly, I know myself, it's Skylar Sodi.
Great, sorry, Sherry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, through you, Mayor Martin. So contact interaction has decreased and the amount of visits have also decreased on that. Is that a concerning part or just something that we have to work through?
Through you, Mayor Martin. So if you think of what happens through the month of December and January, certainly the activity levels are higher in December. We're coming off our 2 parades. We have a lot of activities within the community that we promote. In January, and again, leading through our holiday season, so we have our public skates, we have a lot of activity happening at the arena, which we promote. And then it falls into a period where it's rather quiet for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Even though we're promoting the festival, we're not seeing the numbers. I'm hoping that you'll see certainly an increase coming February. Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Martin.
Okay. All right then. No other questions. I'll look for a motion to receive the reports for information. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, the next is staff. Thank you, Sherry.
Yep.
Staff reports with follow-up action. And first, dear Lionel, is the tax bill dates. Billing dates. So the dates there, I hope we check them all and make sure everything falls on a good day. Okay, so there's a recommendation there, what's the council's thoughts?
Can I ask a question first, or? Through you, Mayor Martin. So that mean we'll get a draft of the newsletter going out for the 4th of March meeting?
I'll just talk.
Go ahead.
We will be putting together a revised expanded tax bill insert for council to preview before the final billing.
But particularly for March 4th, because if there's any changes, then we can make them the 18th, so it'll be ready for March 31st for the. Right. That's all I'm thinking.
Okay. Typically, I think that goes out in the final billing. I don't know if Bob has any insight there.
Through you, Mayor Martin. So typically, it has been custom in the past that our newsletter was mailed out with the final billing of the year. However, if council wishes to have another newsletter to go out in the first billing of this year, we can certainly work on that. And we would have to bring that back to our March meeting.
So you would like that in the motion that we bring the letter to the March 4th meeting?
If you want a newsletter in the March billing.
That's what I'm hearing council was thinking, but go ahead.
Through you, Chair. I guess it will depend somewhat on when our budget is completely finalized. And I'm pretty sure the county has finalized but when it is done and their bylaw is passed, then we'll have some more information from them that we were thinking of putting into this one. So,
Okay,
yeah,
so
Yeah.
just,
So
yeah, go ahead.
through you, Mayor Martin, we wouldn't be able to include any budget information in that newsletter, at this point anyhow. So if there's other information that council would like to mail out, we could consider that.
Councilor Flanagan?
Through you, Mayor Martin, so is this the opportunity to get out the education for the septic thing that we're gonna be doing? QR code, I believe, is what Travis said, a little box so that people can start clicking on that and realizing what is going to be coming down the pipeline. Or
future, we were planning on including that in this, the tax bill insert, that we would typically send out, especially since we have a bit more space since we're moving to 2-pagers.
okay. Thank you.
I'm through you, Mr. Mayor. We've heard that we're going to have multi-pages of newsletter. The idea, if we send out 2, then we may not need as many multi. We could cover off some things that, well, the mayor's message, maybe, I don't know whether but like things that we could do prior is to lessen the load in the final tax bill because we are going to hopefully have the budget approved before final tax bill goes out in July. So that was the thought anyway.
I agree. I think moving forward, this is an opportunity for us, right? It's two free mailings to get our word out to people. So maybe as I said, moving forward this year, we're kind of behind the ball here in terms of the March newsletter, but start planning. So get our message out now for March, and maybe when budget comes in, we can get a separate newsletter for, mid to late summer. But it's an easy way for us that doesn't cost us anything to get a message out to the public that we want to get out. So.
It's true. You remember, well, it also is that a lot of people say we don't get the information. And with going twice, an opportunity to spread it out, it's hard to say you didn't get your tax bill. And
So what would you like added to this recommendation, and just go with the recommendation and start with are you looking to start with something for the March bill that goes out, and like add something in there?
I think that's what we're hearing, right? So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll have to I'll make that motion then.
Yeah, and then it would come forward, whatever's in there on the, can you add that for the March 4th meeting, Bob, as far as what the content you've got to date?
Yes,
Even whatever you've got, like.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, we can certainly do that, and we would ask council to bring forward any ideas you have that you would like in the newsletter. If you could do that in the next week, that would be helpful.
Okay. All right, so a mover for the recommendation with the March 4th meeting information. So that's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks. The next item on here is recreation facilities and kind facility request for the Peterborough Beach practice. Anyways, this is what we talked about earlier, so. What's your thoughts here that council provide the arena? So where's that coming from? Is that like a council initiative thing or economic development bill?
To you, Mayor Martin, I'm not sure.
Is there any financials to that? That's what I'm asking, like the cost of it.
For the ice rental, it would be,
Just a,
that's it. Yeah. The staff is already going to be on site, so there's no staffing expense.
okay, so the recommendation is that council provide approval for the HPM Economic Development Department to host the Peterborough Beach practice at the arena. Simple motion. We want to move that? Moved by Councillor Flagler, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. So the next item here, Bob, is the committee appointments here for the Matheson and Youth Committee. So the recommendation is before you. And that Karen Laughlin and Ian McKenzie are hereby appointed to the Matheson Property and Park Committee. And further that Gracie Pete Riel and Maggie Templeton are hereby appointed to the ATM Youth Committee. And that these appointments expire at the end of the term of council. That's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb. Seconded. Councilor Doherty. Questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, the next item here is the arena roof project tender. Or project, so. Recommendations before you. What's your thoughts?
Better move it before
Yeah.
it goes up again.
Yeah. So that's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb and second by Councilor Clement. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, next is the municipal housing infrastructure program. Bob?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, as for the staff report, there was a grant opportunity for the wastewater treatment expansion. And I would like to amend the recommendation. There are actually 2 grant opportunities available. As per the report, the Municipal Housing Infrastructure Program Health and Safety Water Stream Grant, which is a provincial grant. There is also a federal grant that has now been announced, the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund. And based on the information that we have today, these grants can be stacked one on top of the other. So the recommendation from staff is that we receive authorization from council to apply for both of these grants for the wastewater treatment plant expansion. So that's one part of the recommendation. The other recommendation is that council choose which piece of the project we'd like to apply for, whether it's phase 1, which is the lagoon rehabilitation, or phase 2, which is the plant expansion, or a combination of both.
Okay. So what's your thoughts here? Go ahead.
I'd like to move the motion, but I'd like a combination of both. I think we need both.
Yeah, I think the one is a quick fix, the other one, it's hard to say, but I would like to see both myself, but go ahead.
Can we explain a combination of both and what that entails? Because I know we're trying to cover, but I don't know if this is gonna work in terms of being allowed to do that. Like split the costs here. So Bob, maybe you can get into how we could split the costs on 2 different projects.
So through you, Mayor Martin, there are 2 phases to this expansion, as was reported by our consultant SEMA Engineering at a previous delegation to council, which is attached to this staff report. So phase 1 costing was $5.5 million, and phase 2 costing $14,850,000. Those are 2 separate projects. Now our engineers are telling us they could, in theory, package this together as one grant application. Design drawings have commenced with the lagoon rehabilitation. So that piece is there, but we could package this as one potential grant.
Would be a huge.
So that's the combination of 1 and 2.
That's right.
Okay.
So. Yeah, so what's your thoughts? Go ahead.
It's you, Mayor Martin. So I'm maybe not understanding, right, but I think the report says we net 136 new properties if we do the first expansion. If we spend another 15 million, we're going to get what, up to 200?
17, yeah.
Another 217.
So we're going to spend $10 million now. You get 70 more. But I'm just asking a question, am I reading the information right?
Sorry, I think I don't know because the way it's worded, but my understanding is the 136 would be phase one and then another 217 on top of the 136 is the way I read it. That could be, I understand what you're saying, but the way I read it is, Bob, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, so through you, Mayor Martin, on page 390 of your agenda package, there is a chart. We'll try to put it up on the screen that lays out phase one, phase two, and the separate phases of this project. So phase one being the ASAP item, 136 units is what we were told. The replacement of sanitary collection system, the I&I project, is going to add potentially another 200 approximately units. And then the phase two wastewater treatment plant upgrade, potentially adding 217 units based on the information that we were provided.
So it's the phase two and the phase one there, as far as the 217, is that on top of the 136? I think that's where the confusion's coming.
It is.
Okay.
Through you, it's pretty large confusion for 10 million bucks. I think we should probably nail it down, but that's just my opinion.
So, yeah. So ideally, it's nice to have everything. And so if we can apply for both, it's a huge number and we're gonna have to come due.
No, I agree with let's go get the biggest bang for our buck here. I just didn't want it to kind of trip us up in terms of if it was gonna slow us down in terms of moving ahead with what, phase one, because
phase one is the quickest solution, like to get 136 homes moving. And it's gonna take care of a lot of the infiltration problem, but it doesn't have as many homes with it. So, the other one, I forget, there was some dates there that, with phase two, like it was stretched right out. I guess if we wanted to, you could take it out to like, what was it, 2050 or something like that?
That's right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Where phase one would put the fire out, but it's not ideal. But it would, and it's manageable as far as $5 million compared to $20 million. I don't know what our portion of that is, but.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, we could ask SEMA to clarify, to make, for council's comfort, to clarify this chart. We can do that two ways. We can put that in the motion, or the deadline for this application federally is March 31st, 2025. We could invite them back to our next meeting. There is no deadline on the provincial funding that has yet been announced that we're aware of. Doesn't mean there won't be one before that meeting, though.
I think we're pretty good till February 27th.
I'll leave it to the rest of council. For myself, I wouldn't mind having them come and explain, just because I think we all have questions around this grant, and maybe they would give us some better advice in terms of how we should proceed with this grant, right? Or what might give us a better chance of getting what we want in the end here. I don't have enough answers right now, kind of, to make a decision. That's kind of where I am. So,
Councilor Doherty, you have a question?
Through you, the percentage of the grant is pretty critical because of a 70%, 30% of 15 million. I'm not very good at math. Hart's better at it. That's the money we have to come up with. So when we're going to recommend this, somebody better get a hold of line one. Let's see where we can line up $7 million here. Or the guy that was here this morning with the financial statements.
4.5. 30%, 4.5.
Okay, so for the motion today, maybe it's that we have them back, have them to our next meeting, if we could, to give us a better explanation here, and we can have all the details to deal with this.
I don't want to keep. I'm like I want to keep this going, but I just think this is a major. And I'm hearing here too. I'm the same way, that if there's more grant money available and we can go for phase two, and it's not going to restrict what we want to do with phase one, then let's go for it, right? Because the more free money, the better for us.
So just to clarify, the provincial funding amount would be 73% maximum, and the federal funding amount is 50%.
Let's say 10-5.
So the provincial grant, from what I heard, has been hit heavy. A lot of applications coming in for it. just keep that in mind. So there's only so much money to go around. So are we gonna be successful? Hopefully, but there's gonna be another one after this too, and that's what they keep saying. So when they start saying stuff like that, it's obvious that,
Just for clarif, we applied for this grant last year, didn't we? Or is this a different one? That we got,
We did apply for a grant last year and we're unsuccessful.
so
Mhm.
we're all for one, maybe third turn, so.
So for today, could we see if we have a motion that we invite, is it SEMA?
Senior.
Invite them to our next meeting just to, and have your questions ready for them and maybe provide them ahead of time. So they can be prepared.
As part of the motion, why won't we include as many questions we have now so that they come prepared so that we can maybe approve or decline or do something next meeting if they can.
Yeah, like,
Okay, does anybody want to add questions to the motion? I'm open
I
to it.
don't know, I just,
if you have any,
I will have some by that point, but I just don't.
Yeah, okay.
I can't pick them off the top of my head, so, but you're right, they're.
so provide them to staff so then they can provide them to SEMA.
That's fine.
So for today, the motion would be that we SEMA to our next meeting to clarify some of these things around these grants, so we're better prepared to make a motion. So moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconder. Councillor Doherty, all in favor? Nice. Okay, the next item on here is the Peterborough housing.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. So staff was directed to send a letter to Peterborough Housing with respect to the Smith Drive, the undeveloped portion of the Smith Drive property. The letter was sent and is attached to this report. As well, the response from Peterborough Housing was received and is attached to this report. And Peterborough Housing is suggesting that we meet with them to discuss future potential development opportunities and possibly a partnership in that regard. So this report recommends that we proceed with that meeting, and that's at the sole discretion of council.
Your thoughts? Go ahead, Councillor Doherty.
yeah, it'd be nice if they would come to a meeting of council. Not through another letter, so everybody knows exactly what they're thinking and what they're not thinking and when it is that. That's my thoughts.
Yep. Okay, so instead of this motion, it would be a motion that we invite them to council to the council meeting to discuss it. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? Carried. So. Okay. Next, we don't have any correspondence. No information, no correspondence for information, so I'm gonna move into committee liaison reports. And my turn to catch up. So county council update, Art, there wasn't much of a meeting last week, so.
Yeah, and most of what we talked about was basically just the Ward Street expansion. Yeah. All that to do with our community, if anybody, it's online there, if anybody want to look at it. The one thing we did pass, the warden and deputy warden passed the motion, given the election in the United States and the tariffs that are coming. Basically passed a motion to contact the premier and others, trying to get the provinces start working with each other more than they have been in terms of interprovincial trade to deal with some of the rising costs that we fear are going to come from these tariffs. So besides that, yeah, it was a pretty short meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, that's good. So the next item on here, you're back on here, Deputy Mayor, with regards to the OPP. We got a couple of things in here for the liaison reports here for OPP County Detachment and call for service and that. So does anybody have any questions for the Deputy Mayor on that?
Mayor, the stipend. Is that 700, is that an annual one? Oh, it's going to be monthly? For the board approved, or that might be Brooke County, a board administrator. Is that 700 a month?
I believe so.
Is that going to be incorporated in our 20 grand that we got to give them now? Like that's all inclusive, or have they got that far yet?
I believe, well, I have to look into that. No, I believe it's based on the number of hours that they looked into. So they figured, I think 15 to 20 hours or somewhere around the 20-hour mark, and then figured in the wage on top of that. So that would come up with your $600 to $700 a month. Right?
Yeah.
Wage.
No,
So that's where I think that came from. But as far as I know, that those things are still being kind of kicked around. That number was put out in that meeting, but it's subject to change. Hopefully not when I say change, go higher, go lower. But there's still a number of issues because the board, as of yet, while we're meeting, it's still, everything there isn't finalized. There's still issues going on around our Indigenous partners. So hopefully once those are rectified, a lot more of these financial questions can be answered.
I'm just so glad that they've made the change, because it's really helped us a lot. Now we have a line item on our budget, but our deputy or whatever Chris there, whatever his title is, now he doesn't have to go to 7 meetings. So we saved him time and cost us money. I think that's a really great solution.
To say there's been hiccups to start off this process, Councillor Doherty, would be an understatement for sure. Hopefully moving forward, these can be rectified and we can start being a lot more productive than we have been up to this point. I'll leave it at that. And one other thing, just I'd like to share for council, I think Mary, you might be aware of it. Councillor Galliard made us aware that the Black Cat radar cameras, whatever signs, are going to be returned to all the townships. So we will be in charge of, which I think is better for us in terms of having control and not relying on the OPP to move these things around. So yeah, they will be returning it to the roads here. I think our roads crew, all the roads crews in the county actually, over the next month or two. And when they come, they will be conducting kind of a quick education for our roads crew in terms of how they work, how they can download the data, whatnot. I think a lot of the data comes through the computer anyways, but anyways, just make our workers familiar with how it operates and the best way to get it set up. So as I said, that'll be happening here hopefully before spring. So
Right, Councilor Lycus.
To you, Mayor Martin. So the board of it's the Peterborough County Policing Board, is that what we're talking about?
Police Services Board.
Police Services Board. So the board itself has outlined by Peterborough County. So the county has decided to pay a board member and the monthly stipend is $700. Is that correct?
no, the board has decided to pay
An
admin person
Right.
who the admin person happens to work for the
But it
county.
all came from Peterborough County. Is that not
No, this comes
what I
from the
just
police.
read?
No, this comes from the Police Services Board.
It says outlined by Peterborough County. So, yeah.
I don't know
The
why.
person is going to be coming through Peterborough County, but it was the board that decided.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The board's a separate entity.
Yeah.
The police board is the one that decided on the stipend. I don't know why it says outlined by Peterborough County. Maybe I didn't write the report, so
Okay, well,
But
I'm just reading the
Peterborough County
report.
has nothing to do with it. Besides the fact that I think the admin person that might be taking over this is also a county employee. So I don't think that's been finalized as of yet, but at the time. Because the original person, when we set up the committee, was the deputy clerk from, I believe, Trent Lakes, Yanka Dragisevich.
Yeah. Temporary.
Something came up with either in her career, personal life, where she's since stepped away from the committee. So we've had to look for a new admin person. And we have a gentleman from the county who has stepped in at the moment to be the admin person. So, and that's where we sit.
So now we're paying Peterborough County employee $700 for in-scope services? I'm not sure, like, what are these board members doing that they need to be paid for?
Nobody's,
the board
nobody on the
members.
board is being paid.
Okay, well, here, let me just read what I'm looking at. That the board approved the proposal outlined by Peterborough County regarding the board administrator with a monthly stipend of $700 for in-scope services.
Well, to that, the reason the county's involved is because of their employee. So they would have to agree to let their employee work for the board.
Something's not right there. Peterborough County.
By all means,
shouldn't be
Councilor
in there.
Flannery, if you'd like, I suggest maybe you write a letter to the police services board.
No, I'm
So
okay
go through
with
me
can get
here,
back
go
to you.
through me here, please.
Yes, I'm okay with paying police services board. I'm not okay with Peterborough County telling us that we now need to pay them to run that meeting.
Not Peterborough County telling me that, it's the police services board.
Police service. Board is a separate entity. So. It's a hard thing. It's a new thing coming up and you're doing, I've been there. I know what you're going through your heart and you're doing a good job. So, anyways.
Oh, I'm not, I agree with the cause of
Yeah,
the
like
comments, because I'm there and like, I wish, as I said, I truly wish that it was going smoother than it is, but in terms of like people's accusations being made here that somehow people are getting paid or something that no one's being made aware of. I don't know where those kind
The
of things are
reason is
coming
it's
from, so.
Those came from what you said though, Hart, because you said that the board member was a Peterborough County employee. That's where that came from.
No, I said the administration person for
Right.
the board.
For
Okay,
the board.
is a Peterborough County employee. I didn't say a board member was a Peterborough County.
It's the administration.
Yes.
Right.
So they're adding duties to administration in the county. Now, if somebody's gonna take this on to do however many hours, they don't even know how many hours it is. It could be 20 hours a week. It could be-
15 to 20 was the range
So-
that was thrown in.
So this person
A
is
month.
an employee at the county that's they're gonna appoint this job to, and that's where they come into it.
Okay, I get all that, Jim. So where does the 700 come from? Does that come from our taxes that are going to Peterborough County to pay for that? Is that my understanding of that?
I think each municipality is gonna have to
Mhm.
put that forward, and you're gonna find out if it's 700 a month.
Yep. Yeah, we'll get that's what I mean. It'll go hopefully in the next month or two. So a lot of these financial questions are gonna be answered in terms, and like I said, there'll be more than 700. There's gonna be an added cost on top of the 700. I'm almost sure of it, based on what I hear. What that is, I don't know, and what it's for, I don't know, but when that comes, I will bring it to council.
Okay, Councilor Doherty, you had a question?
Through you, Mr. Rep. Yeah, but the optics are and the verbiage, and not to pick on you, Hart, with the board, but we have a county employee loading up $700 a month from a committee. That's the perception it looks like, and that's not really what's happening.
No.
So the county is going to reduce the salary of that person when they go to the police board. Am I understanding that right? Or is this an add-on salary to the person that's volunteering?
I don't know. I'd have to look into that.
Okay.
My point to you would be that was discussed about going and getting someone that didn't work for the county. How many people do you know they're going to sign on for a $600 or $700 a month contract? I'm just saying.
No, through you, Mr. Redd, that really is is it going to be extra to the county's employee? Like the employee gets paid a salary
Yes.
for doing their job. That's okay, that's done. So now they're going over and work for the police board
Yes.
and get another stipend.
As I understand it, I believe that is, I'm not 100% on that. I will check into
Okay,
it.
we'll wait to get more.
But I would assume that in the, like, I can't see the county, to your point, taking that off his county pay. So it'll be over and above what he does in his job at the county.
So, thank you.
Okay. So the motion for today would be to receive the report from the deputy mayor. Moved by Councillor Doherty, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? Carried. All right, I don't have any written notice of motion before me. Is there any oral notice of motion to come forward? None. I have no other business. So I'm gonna move into the bylaws. So. The first bylaw there is a bylaw 2025-08, being a bylaw to amend the township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to change the zoning categories of certain lands, part of lot 30, concession 9, municipal address of 212 Fire Road 87A, assessment roll number 15310075740. That's the whole thing, right?
It's fine.
Okay, so bylaw for that zoning bylaw that we did earlier, motion to move that. Moved by Councillor Doherty, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? That's carried. The next bylaw is bylaw 2025-009, being a bylaw to amend our comprehensive zoning bylaw for certain lands located on part of lot 19 and 20, concession 8, having a municipal address of 414 Anderson Road, with the assessment roll number of 153101000435100. So moved by Councillor Doherty, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? Carried. Third bylaw here is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and the clerk to execute an environmental impact mitigation measure agreement between the corporation of the township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen and property owners Ronald Douglas Cousins and Betty Ann Cousins for lands located on 56 Fire Road 85R, legally described as part of lot 23, concession 8 in the township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. Moved by Councillor Doherty, secondary Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? Carried. Fourth one is it just as written, Bob. That's with regards to the establishing the dates.
Yes.
Okay, so the dates for our interim tax bill. Moved by Councillor Doherty, second by Councillor Clement. All in favor? Carried. And the last one is a bylaw 2025-012, being a bylaw to appoint persons to various boards. So that's to appoint the board members. So moved by Councillor Doherty. Second is Councillor Clement. All in favor? That's carried. And that's the end of the open meeting. I will look for a motion that we move into closed sessions under section 239-2B for personal matters, identifiable individual, and section 239-2E litigation and potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipal or local boards. So motion to go into closed. Barry, did you move that?
I did.
Okay, and second by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? That's carried.